Hi, good afternoon and welcome. So glad to have a great show today to talk about one of the probably most important issues that is affecting the forest community, the issue of wildfire. My name is Kevin O'Hara. I'm the lead of 1T.org US, which is a coalition of companies, governments, and NGOs, all united by the belief that trees and forests play a critical role in addressing our twin climate and biodiversity crises. And as I mentioned briefly at the top, the biggest issue that's affecting our forest in the West, but also in growing other pockets of the country, is the issue of wildfire. Where I am today in Minneapolis, we're under day three of air quality advisory from smoke from Canadian wildfires. So this issue is not just affecting folks in the West anymore. It's affecting all kinds of people in all kinds of different ways. But fortunately, there's a huge number of great coalitions and great activities that are happening to address the fire issue. And one of those is the Conservation X Labs Grand Fire Challenge. We're excited to have Liam Torpy, the manager of the Grand Fire Challenge, today to talk a little bit about what the challenge is, and then introduce a slate of innovators who are working on the ground with communities around the country and around North America to attack this fire issue head on. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Liam Corpy. Thanks, Liam, for being with us, and excited to hear from you and this fabulous team.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate the introduction. And I'll just say, he did a pretty brief introduction on 1T.org, but I'd like to just say that they do such an amazing job convening within the fire space and the forest space, and have really built a lasting, effective, durable coalition that we're lucky to be a part of. And I'll say that, I think in this field, sometimes it can be hard to fully convey the value of convening, which they do so much of. I think it's event planning is so much work. It's often hard to get funded as well, and they do it so well. And so I think that's such a important connective tissue of the field, and it's not always sung enough praises. So thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, the whole 1T.org team. And so I've got a quick presentation for you here. I'm going to keep it pretty brief as well, though. I'll talk about the Fire Grant Challenge, and then you're going to get the chance to hear from the actual stars of it, which are the innovators themselves who are doing the amazing work on the ground with communities and across the entire continent. And so looking forward to that. But just to give a little bit of background on who we are with Conservation X Labs and what the challenge is doing, I'll have a few slides for you. And so Conservation X Labs is a conservation innovation and technology nonprofit. We've been around for about 10 years now. We just had our birthday about 2 months ago, which is fun. We have teams in Washington, D.C., where I'm based. You might be able to hear the thunderstorm going on outside our window here with the summer thunderstorms. We have a team in Seattle, team members in California, and then in Peru and globally as well. And so we support different conservation technologies that address the underlying drivers of extinction, fire being one of those. And so during our 10 years, we've supported 141 different innovations. Those innovations have gone on to raise $500 million in follow-on investment through participating in CXL challenges or being supported by CXL. We've given out about $14 million in prize funds in the 15 to 16 prizes that we've run during our time. And these have been focused on lots of different regions. And so throughout our time, we've engaged with countries ranging all across the world, and so 69 countries total. So one current iteration of the prizes and challenges that we're running is the Fire Grant Challenge. The first thought about this challenge about 3 to 4 years ago with Dr. Marion Adeney joining from the Moore Foundation. And we wanted to address some of those underlying drivers of the fire crises across the world. And so what we ended up doing is convening 4 different ideation sessions in 3 different continents, starting with Western North America, the Amazon, and Southeast Asia as focal regions that have biodiversity hotspots within them, that have ongoing fire crises, and that also have really deep indigenous and place-based knowledge taking place over millennia of managing fire on the landscape. And so we held those ideation sessions and found central themes throughout them. And we came to this main theme of how can we bring together indigenous, rural, and place-based knowledge with technology? Because across the United States and in many other countries, we saw that there was a lot of new solutions emerging in the fire tech space. So in Silicon Valley and other technology hubs, where there's been a lot of advancements in machine learning, AI, automated systems, GIS monitoring, and other different avenues and channels of technology. And then we also saw a lot of different solutions emerging from communities. And so there's been more and more focus on cultural burning and cultural stewardship with tribal nations and First Nations and other indigenous communities. There's also been a lot of knowledge that's finally getting the recognition that it deserves from rural communities as well, who have been on the landscapes for centuries. And so we saw these solutions emerging, but we didn't see enough interchange between these two different spheres of knowledge. And we certainly didn't see enough uptake into the dominant fire management systems. And so we've created this fire challenge as a mechanism to A, do some of that bridging and create some of that space to bring together these two different types of knowledge, and then also to accelerate, scale, and incentivize these types of technologies and solutions too. And so to talk a little bit about the timeline of the challenge itself, we launched last August after about a year and a half long development process. We had a large open innovation call or open application call. So we put out word to innovators in all different types of people in different spaces across the globe, which I'll show on the next slide. And then we had about a team of 70 different reviewers come together to review those initial technical applications and to see who should move on to the next phase. After that, we chose 24 semifinalists teams and then also a host of communities. And then we held a matchmaking process, which I'll talk about as well. And then today we are here in the acceleration field testing phase. We're about halfway through it. And so the teams are implementing their field testing protocols. They're using their solutions on the ground and also taking part in workshops that I'll talk about as well. And so that's all leading up to the grand prize ceremony in January. And so, as I said, we got applications from across the globe. There was a large amount from across the United States, and also really strong representation in Canada, in South America, and then around the world as well. And so we took those applications, did a rigorous review process with experts ranging from fire ecologists, firefighters and chiefs, indigenous practitioners, nonprofit leads, policymakers, really matching them to the types of innovations that were most relevant to their skill set, and then brought those down to 24 semifinalist teams. And so once we got to that phase, we wanted to try out a new mechanism that we had done parts of in previous challenges, but had never really fully scaled before, and that is the matchmaking process. At the center of the challenge, as I said, is trying to bring together those two different types of spheres of knowledge. And so what we did is we held a matchmaking event where the technical applicants who had the initial solution idea could present on their goals, what they wanted to do scaling wise, what their expertise was, how the innovation could help communities and landscapes. And then the communities then talked about, here's the specialized expertise and knowledge that we have. Here's our goals, our ecocultural management goals for our broader landscape and lands. And then here's our field testing abilities. And so then the teams came together, they talked with each other, had back channels going, and put together teams with each a technical applicant and a partner community, so that each would have that local knowledge imbued in the product. And so those teams then submitted joint field testing plans. They created a plan for how they would work together over 9 months through the challenge. And then we selected 12 of them and gave each of them $50,000 to field test and participate. And so 5 of the 12 finalist teams met through this matchmaking process. Others used the opportunity to bring in a partner that they had potentially worked with before or wanted to work with, and that the challenge presented a mechanism for them to do so. And so now here we are today with our 12 finalist teams, which is really exciting. I like these graphs, which we've been putting out on social media. They kind of look like playing cards that you can collect. But we've got a really great cohort it really covers a lot of bases and it's diverse in a lot of different ways. And so first off, just talking about geographically, these teams are spread across Western North America. We have 5 teams with components in Canada, 6 teams that have at least one of the technical applicant of the partner community in the United States, and then 1 team in Mexico as well. And that team is bringing in knowledge and connections from Australia with Aboriginal burning there too. So it truly is a continent-wide cohort. It's been really cool seeing some of the collaborations between Canada and the US. 5 of the teams are international collaborations, so there's been a lot of international learning too, on the team's part, on my part as well, which has been really interesting. And so just across the spread, you're dealing with different types of ecosystems ranging from the subboreal down to different forest types in Mexico. And so it's been really interesting seeing how different solutions can apply in all these different areas, each with different regulatory regimes, with different types of communities. We have 4 teams with indigenous partner communities as well. So we're really excited to be bringing that knowledge and leadership in as well. And so we've got a good spread with the field testing and the teams themselves. Then looking at what are these innovations actually doing? And we're going to be able to hear from the innovators themselves during this webinar, so I won't belabor on it too much, but we tried to get a slate of innovators that were dealing with different problems across the fire cycle. And so there's no silver bullet. And so we've been really trying to create a sort of portfolio effect that can address different drivers of the fire crisis. And so first off, with risk assessment and planning, multiple of the innovations are working to bring in cultural data and to empower indigenous communities, tribal nations, First Nations to manage their landscapes in an efficient manner with state-of-the-art tools that bring in their knowledge and give them more bargaining power with different partners. We have mitigation and risk reduction activities and innovations as well. Some of them are looking at decreasing ignitions from power lines and from lightning. Others are looking at the biomass utilization question, which you'll get to hear from later on in the presentation. And then we also have ones that are looking at suppression, both to control cultural and prescribed burns and to help increase safety within those, even though they are often overwhelmingly safe, but often the public needs to know that and needs to have that social license as well. And then we have an innovator looking at the reforestation question. And so we've neatly put these into groups, but if you talk to the innovators themselves, they'll talk about how they really are working at multiple of these different columns. For example, Plumas wood fiber is helping to create potting soil and other materials that can help with restoration later on with nurseries and potting operations. Or for example, Envisioning Labs is doing prescribed burns and could be helping with cultural burns as well. That can then help with the risk assessment and planning and also with the mitigation risk reduction. So nothing's quite as neat as it always seems in these different types of diagrams. So now they're participating in the field testing and acceleration program. And the goal of this, it's a 9-month program, CXL is running it with a host of partners, is to try to bring them the resources that they need to accelerate their scaling process. And so these innovations were chosen for their potential to have a larger impact across Western North America and potentially beyond as well, depending on the solution. And so we're trying to help them and support them in 5 different areas. We analyze their needs beforehand with an initial assessment, and then also through working with them in the initial stages. And so those 5 areas are product development, which is developing the product, making sure that it fits the needs of the communities, making sure that it's user-friendly, and it's not just a good idea, but it's one that'll actually be used. Then also market validation, looking at that this matches a true market need, that it matches the customer need, and they can obtain that user market fit. Next is impact. It can be a good innovation, but if it's not having that impact on the environmental and biodiversity factors, then it's not really achieving what we need to achieve with the Conservation X Labs. And then also that it has social and cultural effects that are beneficial for all communities and other participants involved. And then the other 2 parts are scalability. So how can it influence regions across Western North America? How can it scale up to treat the problem at the landscape level? Because we've seen this crisis growing over the last few decades, and the solutions have not been keeping up with it. So we're looking for solutions that can navigate the policy regime that's sometimes restrictive, that can navigate funding issues as well, and that can reach that broader scale. And then lastly, financial sustainability. Like I said, to get anything done, you've got to have the funds available to do it. So we're looking at how can they create a financial model through generating revenue or accessing grants or dealing directly with users in order to be able to sustain that scaling arc as well. And so we're doing this through workshops. We've been doing monthly to bi-monthly workshops. We're doing this through targeted connections as well, trying to connect them to technical experts. We're about to be connecting them to mentors as well and other people in positions who can help the finalists. And then also through trying to connect them with follow-on funding as well. And so we've been setting up an investment and scaling council that tailors to the different needs of the different teams. As I was saying before, some are startups, some are nonprofits. They're all at different stages of their arc as well. And so really trying to create a diverse committee that can support all the different needs. And so you can see here some of the focuses. And then as I was listing out those criteria, those are the criteria that they're going to be judged on with the challenge as well. And so we're recruiting a slate of expert judges to do that final evaluation too. And so it's not going to be CXL carrying it out. That's what I always tell the finalists. And I'm not jealous of the judges because there's so many great innovations that I think it really is going to be a tough decision at the end of the day. And so over the coming months, things that you can expect from the teams, from the program, as you continue to follow along with it, is more of that collaboration and scaling. I was just talking about the competing element, but we've really been focusing on trying to encourage collaboration because so many of these teams have lessons learned that they can share with each other. They know it's worked, they know it doesn't work. There's a lot of kindred spirits too. I think you have to be, a little bit crazy to go out and take an innovation and try to make it in the world, and the world needs those people, and you have to be brave to do it. So it's really been amazing with the people, and been amazing seeing them come together. Next is storytelling and outreach. We've been doing interviews. We're going to be doing more webinars as well with our communications team, and so look out for some of the stories. Amazing stuff is happening out in the field, as you're going to hear from the teams, and so look out for hearing some of the adventures that go on there. And then lastly, they're going to be continuing their field testing and validation of their solutions. And so we're really excited to see the results that come out of that and the impacts on the ground for communities and for the landscapes themselves. And so there's a couple more things I want to say before I pass it off to the innovators. And first is the challenge has really been trying to have a strong commitment to data security and data sovereignty, particularly for Indigenous communities. And so we've been working with our Technical Advisory Council, which includes leaders in data sovereignty and scholars working on the issue. And we really want to make sure that these collaborations that are formed through the matchmaking and through the challenge, that they can show new models and beneficial models for data sovereignty and make sure that all communities that are involved, their data is protected, it's being used in a way that they're comfortable with and that would benefit them at the end of the day. Because in the past, a lot of different innovations or solutions have often been built on knowledge taken from communities about the landscape, about what works and what doesn't, and it hasn't been properly compensated. And so that's something that we're looking at through the challenge and hoping to share lessons learned through the challenge as well with that. And then next is, as I said, the challenge is made possible by a community of partners. And so we have too many partners here just to list the logos. I've got them all written in print, and even we need to add some of them more as well. But first off, we are supported by the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, which has been a true leader in the space with their Wildfire Resilience Initiative, and also by the Coca-Cola Foundation, which has a commitment to disaster resilience and response and also to climate change. And then we've also been supported by Esri and Planet, which are two leaders in the GIS space and have been really kind to support the innovators with different licenses and other forms of technology and support. And then we have so many partners across the policy space. You're going to hear from Tyson Burton Riggs later, who's the co-founder of the Alliance for Wildfire Resilience. You're also going to see our partner with the World Economic Forum, Natalie. And then there's government agencies involved. There are some VC investment funds like NorthX and Sagebrush Capital. And so we were just so lucky that people really rallied around supporting these innovators and are really excited about the mission. And then the last thing I'll talk about is the prizes. So we've had $1 million in prizes. About 600,000 of that has already been distributed to the 12 finalist teams and is being distributed as part of the Field Testing Acceleration Program. There's also in-kind support from Esri and Planet Labs, like we mentioned. And then there's going to be $200,000 in final prizes at the end. And so it kind of provides a fun element of that gamification that goes along with open innovation challenges and prizes. And then that grand prize ceremony, what we're building up to, is going to be in January. And that's not only going to be a ceremony to celebrate the winners, it's going to be celebrating all the finalists. It's going to be bringing together experts from across the field that are doing the same mission of bringing together place-based knowledge with technology. And it's going to be a broader learning event too. So stay tuned about that. And we're going to be putting out information as we lock down the location and figure out what really works. And so I'll say thank you everybody so much. If you have any questions or you want to get involved with the challenge, please reach out. I'm going to put my email in the chat after the innovators talk. But if you're interested in collaborating with any of the innovators, if you're interested in partnering with the Fireground Challenge or potentially using any of the innovations, please reach out. If you just have general questions too, let us know. As I said, we're really trying to build a community of practice, and we'd love to have you as a part of it. So with that, I'm going to pass it to our innovator teams. And so we have 7 of them today here who are going to talk to you, ranging from across that spectrum and fire cycle and across the continent, like I was talking about. So with that, I'm going to pass to Mark Mays with KaiGeoCon.
Check, check. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Great. Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Mays. I'm a senior scientist in ecosystems and remote sensing at Spatial Informatics Group Natural Assets Laboratory, or SIGNAL. It's a California-based nonprofit that works on climate change adaptation, forest and water resources challenges. I'm leading a 5-coalition group that is part of Team KaiGeoCon. KaiGeoCon stands for Kaizen with Geospatial Conservation Technology. And really, this is more for than just wildfire resilience projects, but because we're in the Wildfire Grant Challenge, it's wildfire that we're talking about here. KaiGeoCon is a workflow process that strengthens adaptive management for wildfire mitigation landscape projects. And it's applicable to many types of large landscape forestry and ecosystem health projects. And it brings together high-resolution 2D and 3D remote sensing capabilities, including in-field drone mapping, and communication kits that we're developing that allow teams in low connectivity environments to share landscape, to share landscape information in real-time intelligence with one another. So it helps teams share in the field whether or not they're saving species that are meant to be saved in a fields reduction project. It helps teams show what right looks like as far as project management over projects that are tens to hundreds of acres. KaiGeoCon itself has a combination of a geospatial tech toolkit where we organize both consulting services and analytical products. Next, please. Pardon my voice. So KaiGeoCon innovates by collecting both ground-up information and bringing training on how to do drone mapping and run mesh radio networks to local organizations with top-down satellite and other geospatial data resources. And we do a combination of both technology consulting and trainings with organizations, meeting them where they are, in some cases to help organizations learn how they can use equipment they've already bought into to do high-resolution vegetation mapping for vegetation project or forest management project, pre-planning, monitoring, and post-project assessment. Next, please. So 2 example projects with the Fire Grant Challenge are a Girl Scout camp, in which we're working over 36 acres to help a camp meet defensible space requirements by planting water space shrubs. And then we're also working on the Greater Mill Valley Shaded Field Break in Northern California with Marin Wildfire Protection Planning Association. Next, please. So 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Our future steps really are to keep scaling out our ability to develop trainings and provide analytical services. And we're interested in the appeal of our innovation to private forest owners, as well as sectors outside of wildfire itself. So stop there. Thanks for your attention. Next. 3 minutes out of 2.
Thank you so much, Mark. And now we have Jeff with Coco.
Hi, I'm Jeff Ravage. I'm the Chief Science and Technology Officer for Coalitions and Collaboratives and the lead instigator of the Cold Fire Project. Our Fire Grant Challenge project employs targeted fungal degradation of hazardous biomass. This technique, developed by the Coalition for the Upper South Platte and COCO, can be used both pre-fire to eliminate potential excess fuels created by mitigation, or post-fire to drop dead matchstick trees, returning them to the soil cycle in a fraction of the time of the laissez-faire scenario, meaning that we fall both in the mitigation and restoration categories. Next slide. Our project is occurring on the autonomous indigenous community of Sikidak in conjunction with the Gitxsan Bands and the Skeena Watershed Conservation Coalition. This project has many partners and moving parts, and its relative ease is not only a testament to those partners, but to the cold fire method itself. Next slide, please. We began in May collecting native mushrooms in the BC vicinity, and demonstrating the construction of wood chip piles in a manner that mimics their use in a forest health or fire mitigation treatment. These chips were produced by an area clearing for a new elder and daycare facility at Sikidak. Next slide, please. We train the organisms in our lab in Colorado, selecting the most aggressive cultures on a specific target biomass material. We call this cold fire because fungal decay breaks down stubborn woody materials in a similar way to hot fire, but without the heat and the dangers that possesses. The seed cultures are shipping back to Canada next Monday for their final expansion into living blocks of spawn by smithereen mushrooms in the town of Smithers. Next slide. Here is a demonstration of the technique from a pilot project in Colorado. Here we saw a nearly 90% loss in mass in 3 years. This pile began at 88 tons and the resulting compost weighed in at just over 7 tons. The compost contains approximately 10% of the carbon from the parent feedstock, similar to biochar, but without the need for heavy machinery or transportation. Last slide, please. Thanks to the SWCC, the Sikidak community, Smithereens Mushrooms, and of course, Conservation X Labs and 1T.org. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Now I'll pass to Lois with Fireswarm.
Hello, my name is Lois Connor. I am the Special Projects Manager here at Fireswarm Solutions. We're thrilled to be partnering with Cheslada Contracting and to be selected as Fire Grand Challenge finalists. Next slide, please. Our Fire Grand Challenge field testing demonstration consists of a swarm of drones autonomously monitoring and suppressing a cultural burn in Burns Lake, British Columbia. Throughout the year and leading up to the demonstration, we participated in a series of community engagement activities. This includes attending the Cheslada campout, which we shared our technology with the community, as well as attended a series of cultural training sessions where our team learned about the history of the area and the community that we will be operating in. The project itself, with the support of Conservation X Labs, has allowed us to create a collaborative framework of engagement and data collection with a focus on place-based knowledge, data sovereignty, and empowering traditional fire management efforts in remote communities such as Burns Lake and Cheslada Carrier Nation. Next slide, please. A little more about our Smart Wildfire Defense platform. It consists of our proprietary drone-agnostic swarm algorithm combined with ultra-heavy lift drone technology in order to rapidly detect and suppress wildfires. Our technology integrates into existing wildfire management systems and complements traditional firefighting technology operating at night when others are grounded. Next, please. In addition to the Fire Grand Challenge, we are also thrilled to be X Prize Wildfire semifinalists, and we are grateful for the ongoing support of NorthX Climate Tech, Innovate BC, NRC IRAP, among others, and of course, Conservation X Labs. Next, please. If you'd like to get in contact with us or have questions about our upcoming demonstration with Cheslada, please use the QR code on your screen. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lois. You've got all 3 X's. You've got X Prize, Conservation X Labs, and NorthX. It's impressive. So now we are going to pass to the International Savannah Fire Management Initiative.
Thank you. I am Fanny Tricon. I represent the International Savannah Fire Management Initiative and our partners in Mexico. We are field testing a methodology developed for savannas in Australia, which is basically emissions reduction through traditional fire management. It combines indigenous fire stewardship with cutting-edge science, which basically is emissions calculation and an MRV, or monitoring, reporting, verification system for carbon accounting. So it not only helps restore traditional practices and balance to fire-adapted ecosystem, but also can potentially create sustainable livelihood for communities through carbon markets. And thanks to the Fire Grand Challenge, we are looking into adapting this methodology in a potential pilot site in Chiapas, Mexico. It will be the first pilot site in Central America and the first adaptation of the methodology to fire-adapted ecosystem other than savannas, as we are looking, for example, at pine oak forest in this project. Next, please. So we're currently conducting a series of activities that includes the pilot site and methodology evaluation, GIS mapping, also workshops with local actors and the communities to assess their needs and interest in being co-creators and implementers. And we are also actively looking for strategic partnerships and funding, as we will have several years of research to conduct after the Fire Grant Challenge to fully adapt the emissions calculations and the other components of the methodology. So far, it's looking promising. We have in Mexico and the pilot site, we have existing capacity and knowledge in fire management and also fire research, as well as a national MRV system that is specific to fire management that includes a lot of the components that we need for the methodology. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fanny. And with the expansion into forests, I think you'll have to look into potentially changing the name from just Savannah to Savannah and Forest.
Absolutely.
Now we have Plumas Wood Fiber with Jeff Grief.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I'm Jeff Grief. I'm the founder of Plumas Wood Fiber, which is an effort to create an industry on the west coast of the United States to process forest biomass into a substitute for peat moss for the horticultural industry. Next slide, please. So we have two problems we need to deal with: severe forest fires due to excess biomass. We know that if we remove a lot of that biomass from the forests, that the severity of the fires is much less and the forests survive. In a severe forest fire, such as you see in the picture here, everything dies. But if you remove the excess biomass, then the forest survives, the trees live. So but there's so much biomass, how do we get rid of it? Well, there's a second problem. In horticulture, they need substitutes for peat moss. Peat moss presents several problems, and they are actively looking for some substitute. Next slide, please. So the solution is to process the wood chips into a potting substrate that the horticulture can use for growing plants. This has been done in Europe for 2 decades. It's done a little bit on the US East Coast, but not a lot. It hasn't been done here in the Western US at any scale. There's a plentiful supply. There's a large market for this material here on the West Coast. It would provide a lower cost to the user and low greenhouse gas impacts because it doesn't have the greenhouse gas impacts of peat moss. So with the Conservation X Labs, we're doing a pilot project of producing some substrate such as this to provide to horticultural nurseries to test, because they want validation that this material is going to work. Next slide, please. So here are a couple of growth trials that have been done by a researcher in North Carolina. The pot on the left in each of these photos has peat moss mixture. The other pots are all Western species of wood fiber substrate. And as you can see, they're doing quite well. So with the Conservation X Labs program, myself and my partner, Real Good Soils, are producing the material. We're going to get it out to about 15 or 20 different nurseries to test, to get credibility and validation in the horticultural industry. And this is all leading to my hope to create a larger facility producing this material at a very high rate, very bulk rate, in order to move a lot of biomass out of the forests and supply horticulture with what they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Really excited to see how all the different growth trials end up going. And now I'll pass to Octay with the Vibrant Planet Data Commons, working with the Kalispel Tribe of Indians.
Thanks, Liam. My name is Octay Dagramachi. I'm the president of Vibrant Planet Data Commons, and I'm going to talk for a minute about our partnership with the Kalispel Tribe of Indians and our initiative to braid tribal needs and the Vibrant Planet platform for wildfire resilience. So next slide, please. So Vibrant Planet is a science-driven public benefit corporation that leverages high-res data, AI-powered wildfire modeling, and interactive decision support tools to help communities, land managers, and utilities to plan and implement resilient and ecologically sustainable landscapes that reduce wildfire risk while enhancing things like water, biodiversity, carbon sequestration, and recreation. Vibrant Planet Data Commons is a nonprofit organization that hosts and generates open science focused on community and ecosystem resilience to wildfire and climate change. Our mission is to make meaning of forest science and data to increase wildfire and climate resilience. We aim to expand participation in the creation, evaluation, and use of science beyond historically included scientific communities. And we aim to accelerate innovation for complex problems. The Vibrant Planet platform is deployed in over 70 million acres. We work with a wide range of customers across the Western US and growing across the US right now. Next slide, please. So the key to our platform is that it enables collaborative, values-based planning across all the stakeholders of the landscape. And partnering with tribes and developing an indigenous stewardship program area is a key focus for us, ensuring land management strategies respect and leverage the deep ecological understanding held by tribes and indigenous communities. Next slide, please. So the aim of our project as part of the Fire Grand Challenge was to pilot our Indigenous Stewardship Program by partnering with the Kalispel Tribe of Indians. We're working together on a user needs assessment to ensure that our platform meets their needs and to develop a replicable process that we can continue to use with tribes going forward. Next slide, please. So our partners at Kalispel have gotten in and are using the platform, and so far so good. They're happy with the customization capabilities and features that let them use the platform for their lands. And next slide, please. And they are using it to plan fuels reduction opportunities in their highest risk areas. So we're excited to continue this partnership with them, learn what works for them and their unique needs, and expand it to other tribes going forward. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Octay. And now we have one last innovator speaking today, which is Envisioning Labs, Jaden Alp.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me? Hi there. Good morning. My name is Jaden Alp. I'm from Envisioning Labs, which is a Vancouver-based company. So through Conservation X Labs and in partnership with San Juan Islands Conservation District, we are developing Firelance, which is a tool to address smoldering fires. So every fire season comes with smoldering fires, which, if you don't know, is a type of fire that can burn deep underground in carbon-rich ecosystems for weeks to months on end, and it releases significant amount of greenhouse gases and risks reignition into major destructive surface fires. Because of their low flame, low heat signature, and that they often occur underground, they are notoriously difficult to detect and even harder to extinguish. So in response to that, we are developing Firelance, which is a dual technology that performs both detection and suppression. So with Conservation X Labs, we're really working on that detection side of things. We are developing sensor fusion through a suite of monitoring technology that can be used by fire crews in a variety of post-burn scenarios, including prescribed burn, to monitor for reignition. You can see in the upper photo, that's us during our field test. Once the smoldering fire is detected, then we can use our CO2 injection technology that directly put CO2 at the source of the fire underground and can extinguish the flames without water or chemical retardants, which is shown in the photo below. So we're seeing a lot of benefits by reducing the amount of emissions caused by smoldering flames, and we're also protecting vital carbon sinks such as peatlands in the process. We're also trying to directly reduce the physical labor associated with detecting smoldering fires, as firefighters have to crawl in the ground, put their hands out to sense hotspots. And it's a really arduous process. So right now, what we're looking to do is talk to firefighters and fire crews across North America and hear about their first-hand experience. So if that sounds like you, please get in touch. Or if you have any questions at all, my email is at the bottom of the slide, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Jaden. And we actually first heard about Envisioning Labs during our ideation session in Indonesia through their work in Malaysia. So it's kind of a cool connection to see where all these different innovators are working and where they're focused.
Yeah, thank you, Liam, and thanks everyone for staying on time. Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, we've got about 10 minutes for Q&A, and I mean a number of rich veins to pull on here from from the Q&A. If you have questions, put them in the chat. There's a couple in there now, and I'm going to start with one that I think would be cross-cutting, that's talking about jurisdictional issues for those innovators who are working with tribal nations or First Nations, and how you're navigating different regulatory regimes with that. And any of the tribal partners, please feel free to jump in.
Yeah, this is Okta. I can speak to that briefly. I mean, that's an important issue and one that we want to be very conscious of as we expand our work with tribes. One of the things we started as we went through this process was to focus on data sovereignty rights, to engage with different tribes, to interview them and try and collect best practices around data sovereignty rights and governance issues by working with them. We're going to be publishing the results of those interviews to share those best practices with others. And we've used that experience also and done a kind of a broader literature review about this topic that we're going to share with others as well. And then you have been using that to develop our own kind of policy and principles about how we address those issues. And so we're going to be making all of that public for hopefully others to learn from and help us learn further from their experiences too. It's an important issue.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. And that struck me in your presentation of the data sovereignty piece is really, really fun. Others that want to talk about different jurisdictional issues?
I think one thing I'll add too is we have another finalist team, the Indigenous Futures Society, that's working with the Washoe tribe. They're working on creating tools for tribal nations as well to deploy for cultural stewardship, and are also doing a lot of great work at the Vanguard in that area. And Fireswarm too, which Lois is represented, is being really proactive on creating data sovereignty agreements and really being clear about the data they need and how it's used, how it's beneficial to the First Nation they're working with. So I think it's going to be really cool seeing the different models that come out of the challenge.
You're here. I've got another cross-cutting one that I would love everyone to take a quick stab at, and not an easy one to get to, but a really good one from Melissa Sterry from Design for Wildfire School. What measures are you taking to ensure that your concepts align with the latest understanding of fire ecology? More specifically, to ensure your solution is calibrated to the very specific fire cycles and conditions that are imperative to pyrophytes, plants that evolve to live with wildfire. So can folks talk a little bit about how they're adapting and managing with fire ecology and how that's informing your work?
Yeah, I can jump in here. So in terms of cold fire, let's just talk first about using in mitigation, dealing with biomass and pre-fire. So pre-fire mitigation is designed in order to allow fire to occur on the landscape, but being a lower intensity so that beneficial ecological effects will occur, such as the recycling of nutrients. Since cold fire is actually both chemically and thermodynamically analogous to hot fire, we actually recycle the nutrients back into the ground just like firewood. We actually preserve more nitrogen than would occur in fires. And we always use native mushrooms, so there's no problem or with invasive species coming in. We're basically using the techniques of the ecology itself, but just trying to accelerate it. And then in post-fire, we do use pyrophilic fungi to work on the trees. So pyrophilic fungi will come in, and we are quite aware of the succession that they occur post-fire. And so we try and mimic that as well.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Others want to address?
I can
Please.
jump
Sure,
in on this. Oh,
Hayden, go
yeah,
first.
with with Our project, we're recognizing that the narrative around fire is shifting towards letting fire burn and kind of the critical role fire plays in all ecosystems. So our goal is not to prevent that or stop that, but as we kind of shift focus to prescribed fires and cultural burns and the role they play in fire, our goal is just to make sure it's monitored and it's contained and it's done in a safe way that protects both the crews and the ecosystems that need to be preserved. So yeah, I think just listening to the crews and kind of what their priorities are is always key, and just figuring out how our sensors and our suppression technology can keep fire within the line and just let it do what it needs to do in those ecosystems is such a critical thing.
Thanks, Jaden.
And I'll
I think
jump.
Mark, you're jump good.
Yeah, I'll jump real quick. And there's definitely a balance to this was to Melissa Sterry's question. There's an important balance of conserving healthy native vegetation ecosystems in a lot of areas where we're working in California that happens to be California coast live oak. But breaking up fuel ladders and ground fuels continuity is also really important. So in our work, we're putting together perspectives of folks on the ground with training them how to use high resource grade sub-meter GPS accuracy to note species of concern that they have, such that local concerns are respected and worked into project plans pre-planning. KaiGeoCon also is involved in post-treatment assessment. So after a fuels reduction project, being sure that the goals of removing ladder fuels, keeping trees and other taller stature canopy vegetation to 6 feet distance at least between lower branches and the ground. We have the ability to track all of these indicators severably, and also bring folks with sometimes competing influences to the table so that they can agree on the same reality, such that projects can go forward and aren't contested. Often, a lot of fuels projects get locked up in the pre-project planning phase because there's objection over clearing fuels relative to biodiversity conservation goals. So I think we play a key role on sort of a specific project site level, helping to unlock those challenges and strike at the compromises that Melissa was describing.
Thanks, Mark.
I just wanted to say that thinning in general, reducing the biomass in the forest, reduces the intensity of the fire. It reduces how much gets killed in the soil because there's less intensity of fire, and makes the landscape more closely resemble the original fire ecology that existed before we went in and screwed things up by doing fire suppression. So I just wanted to make that point.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that. A couple other quick questions. A couple for Coco. What are the intended users of your work, communities, forestry companies, and then how are you acquiring biomass?
Okay, so all land managers or landowners that need to do mitigation or post-fire restoration are potentially clients for our work. We obtain the biomass at the site that we are trying to do the mitigation, the remediation work. For example, in British Columbia, we actually collected wood chips and then we shipped them by FedEx and imported them through customs into the United States, where I converted them into sawdust and used that sawdust to train them so that when they go back to the host pile, there will be no delay in their decay of this material because they've been trained and have been growing on it for about 4 months now.
Thank you. Just want to flag for Plumas a question from Charlie at American Forest. Are you writing is there publication at the work for your research, and we'd love to cite it?
Yes, we sent samples 2 years ago to North Carolina State University, Dr. Brian Jackson, who is one of the foremost researchers in soilless substrates for horticulture. and he also emphasizes wood fiber substrate. He's very interested in our project here on the West Coast. He is just about to release his final peer-reviewed article on his results using Western wood species. The peer review process takes a long time, but as soon as that is available, I can make it available to anyone that wants to see it. So that is the first peer-reviewed academic article that on the subject of the use of Western wood species for wood fiber substrate.
Thanks, Jeff. Question for Fireswarm. How are you combating fire with your technology? Water or?
Yes, our primary suppressant is water. When operating in remote communities, we find it is the most widely available. I know there was a question about capacity as well, and our ultra heavy lift drones can carry 350 kilos of water.
Really cool, thank you. And then I think we have time for one more. Finally, for cold fire, for forests that have tree mortality due to drought and beetle, is your strategy also useful to combat the spread and or eradication of GSOB or other pests? In other words, can fungi also treat these disease trees?
Okay, so I just actually typed that into the chat. So there's a lot of discussion about whether or not we could take, for example, Dendroctonus ponderosa, the Rocky Mountain pine beetle, and trick it into carrying a fungi that is not parasitic, thereby remediating the issue, because it's actually the fungus that kills the trees and not the beetles themselves. But as I said, there's a lot of research that needs to be done because fungi are highly adaptable, and there are knowing which ones are purely saprophytic and which ones can be saprophytic and parasitic, such as the armillaria, that is the humongous fungus in Oregon. That species can switch back and forth between being a wood rotter and being a parasite. So you have to be really careful when you are even releasing a native fungi into the wild environment. We don't use any DNA recombinant because we're really afraid that would be an effective way to create a gene drive, if you've heard of gene drives. But those are artificial organisms that can actually take over an entire ecosystem. And there are people that are right now releasing them in the wild. We don't want to do that. We want to be extremely careful. So I think that there's a possibility in the future for a affirmative answer to your question, but I think we're quite a ways from that.
Thanks, and I wish we had another hour for Q&A because I think lots of rich topics to discuss. And as I have talked to Liam about, we're looking forward to hosting some additional gatherings in the future after field work has been deployed with additional research and stuff. So I just want to say thank you to all the innovators for making the time. Congrats on your selection, and look forward to hearing more from you in the future. But with the limited amount of time left, I want to pivot over and highlight the work of a couple other coalitions. Liam mentioned Tyson Burton Riggs and the Alliance for Wildfire Resilience. And Tyson, are you on? I wanted you to say a quick hello. Talk a little bit about the work that the Alliance is leading. And then I wanted to just have you give us a quick update on some of the policy things that are affecting the broader fire community. We're having a hard time hearing you, Tyson.
I am on a cell phone, unfortunately.
All good. Looks like we might have lost you. Let's give you a chance to reconnect and pivot over to our friend and colleague, Natalie Klim from the World Economic Forum. Natalie, thank you for being with us. Would love to hear a little bit more about the work you're leading at the forum with Moore and Google.org and some others.
Thanks, Kevin, and I hope my internet holds. We're bracing for a big storm in New York, and the clouds are heavy. Well, first of all, thanks Kevin and to Liam for co-hosting this meeting today, and it's a huge pleasure to be here and to hear from all of the different cohort members. I'm kind of constantly impressed and in awe of the incredible work that people do across wildfires around the world. So my name is Natalie Chillum. I work with the World Economic Forum on our Global Wildfire Leadership Network as part of 1T. And as Kevin mentioned, we are very fortunate to have this work funded and supported by the Moore Foundation and Google.org. And really, the work that we are trying to do at the forum is to uplift all of the work that everyone on this call is doing already, and to try to really kind of catalyze that impact. And so through our network, we are in the process of putting together a white paper right now on the business case for investing in wildfire resilience. And we have a series of working groups that are going to be our thought leaders to kind of help contribute to this. But maybe as just a call to action to this community, we're going to be collecting case studies. And again, like what we're really good at the forum is amplifying the work of partners all around the world and to showcase the kinds of initiatives and innovative practices that you all are doing so that we can bring on different business partners as well as our public sector partners to help bring this work forward. So I don't want to take too much time because I know that there's other people to speak, but I will put my email in the chat and please feel free to reach out. And we're very excited about the road ahead. And yeah, thank you again. And just again, so impressed by all the work that everyone has been up to and excited to see how we can partner. And thanks, Kevin, maybe back to you.
Thanks, Natalie. And yeah, please put your email in the chat. And yeah, would love to spotlight this. Tyson, is your coverage cooperating?
Let's try this again. I'll try audio only. I've been on the road this week, so calling in from a phone. Yeah, thanks for dropping the into the chat. Maybe just picking up the more pertinent piece of it. Our work is really focused on federal wildfire policy. If you're interested in tracking that we do, I would encourage you to go to our website. We do put out about a monthly newsletter. We also host a Esri-designed dashboard of current legislative efforts around wildfire, and specifically tie those back to the recommendations of the Wildfire Mitigation and Management Commission. That's something that my colleague Annie Schmidt and I were staff co-leads for, and we think really offers a comprehensive.
I think we might have lost him, but
We might have lost Tyson, which is all good. I'm glad he's out in the field and on the road. We'll make sure to share Tyson's resources. We've got a link in there, but definitely want to share the map and I encourage everyone to follow them and track them. They're doing some great work on tracking and working on policy. Well, with the last 2 minutes, I just wanted to offer my sincere thanks to Liam and the team at Conservation X, to these fabulous groups of innovators. I think this merging of traditional ecological knowledge and tech is such a brilliant way to sort of weave these different threads together and deploy really, really cool and innovative solutions from the bottom up. So kudos to you all for your selection, and kudos to CXL for your leadership on this. We've got a couple other webinars coming up in the next couple of weeks. One that's going to be featuring some place-based work in California, Minnesota, and Georgia with leaders from the Nature Conservancy, American Forests, and others of the U.S. Nature for Climate Coalition. So I encourage you to tune in there if you're looking for more inspiration from the ground. And then later on next month, almost this month, working with our friends at the Arbor Day Foundation for a really interesting report on how America sees trees. So very cool kind of zoom out from the work that they've done with polling experts and public polling firms. So with that, again, thank you for making time to be with us today. A huge thank you again to Liam, and then to the innovators, a final congratulations and congratulate. congratulations and gratitude. And then finally, Climate Week, if you're going to be there, please reach out. We are looking to host some events and want to be amplifying others' events. So please get in touch with Julie and myself with any ideas and brainstorms about collaborations there. So with that, thank you again. Wonderful to see you all, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.